Hi, welcome to Bulletin Beer. I'm River Fox. This is a Steyr M95 30. Right now we're on the range and it just decided to open up one of the few days this week. Anyways, we just did our shooting, but I'd like to introduce you all to this firearm and take a moment to talk about the beer that I chose for it. So for my first episode, I chose one of my favorite rifles out of World War I, if not my favorite, the Austro-Hungarian Steyr M95. This here is the Steyr M95 30. So it was produced in 1917 and updated in 1931. These rifles were adopted generally in 1895 and were the last repeating rifle issued to all Austro-Hungarian soldiers. So this is a beautiful, straight, full bolt gun. It's a little stiff. And some of you may be familiar with this from Battlefield 1, which is how I know it. And when I choose a beer to match a gun, I think about what other beer that I know is Austrian and may have a little bit more of a story to tell with it. So I say Steyr, 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 and when I'm saying that German St, I think of my favorite Austrian beer, Stiegl. And this here is a Stiegl Goldbräu. Now, I'll tell you a little bit more about why I chose it, beyond just my general affinity for it, after I pour it out. So, the Stiegl Goldbräu is translated into English gold brew. And if you can see here, it's got a nice darker gold color. This is brewed sort of like a Vienna lager. And it's, well, I'll tell you what the flavor is after a second. So when you first taste a Stiegl Goldbräu, you get hit with this really strong malty flavor.
It is the taste of the master brewer that forms the taste of the beer.
That's a lot of beer.
On Stiegl's website, they advertise that the Stiegl is one of their most flavorful beers because it uses 12% of their malt extra. So it's pretty hefty, but it isn't a very strong beer, alcoholically. You'll get hit with this flavor that reminds you of I don't know, if you were running through a barley field while drinking like a Fest beer or a Märzen, it's more familiar with your Oktoberfest. This thing, oh man, that's good. So why did I choose this rifle and this beer? Well, this beer was patented in 1912. This rifle, 1895, and then this variant a little later on. So, I think both of these things resemble the modernity that the Austro-Hungarian Empire was going through at the time. Stiegl was a brewery started in 1492. So a lot of its history was shared with the Habsburg monarchy.
A centuries-old craft that has been handed down from one master brewer to the next.
But this beer, the recipe was patented in 1912. Likewise, the Habsburg monarchy has had an army since it was a thing, since I think it was a duchy in the 1200s and then it expanded since then. This is one of its last weapons, and this was one of the last beers before the dissolution of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. And with that, I think we should know the context of where both of these things are coming from. At the end of the 19th century, Europe is awash with all of these things coming in from the colonial empires. Great Britain has London, which is it's the capital of the world, as some call it. Paris, very similar. But Austria, or Vienna in Austria, doesn't go much beyond its continental borders. Though the Austro-Hungarian Empire had been expanding since at least, its inception, they hadn't really reached beyond Europe, which some historians argue caused a lot of its inhabitants to look within.
Ich möchte tanzen, während mein Vater im Sterben liegt. Da beginne ich zu husten.
Bertha, wachen Sie auf.
Was ist? Habe ich was Böses gesagt?
Nein. Sie werden nicht mehr husten.
So Vienna, instead of becoming a capital showing off the wonders of the world, becomes a capital criticizing the wonders of the world. Historians call this period in the turn of the century Fin-de-siecle, which is end of the century in French. And it was this period of alternativism and secession from historicist norms. I mean, the secession movement with Otto Wagner and Klimt, an artist, who showed that people in Austria were trying to go away from what had already been made before. And in this zeitgeist, we have modernity coming. And everyone knows that this multi-ethnic empire that's been being built since the 1200s is soon to crumble. This gun and this beer, with this flavor and this really unique mechanism, this straight pull, shows the decadence of modernity. This rifle itself is shortened. And this is something that the Austro-Hungarians realized during the First World War, that they needed, instead of long rifles to do their old pre-Napoleonic tactics of long infantry volleys, they needed something that was maneuverable. In the Isonzo front, or out in the east, they realized that soldiers needed weapons that they could carry through swamps and through mountains. A rifle that's 2 feet longer than this doesn't really serve that purpose. This is probably one of my favorite guns. This is probably one of my favorite beers. So let's take a closer look at this gun, and let's go out on the range tomorrow, because I don't think it's safe. So here we have a marking on the receiver, Steyr M95. Ooh man, that is a stiff bolt, but it's so cool. We can see here 2 locking lugs here on the bolt head. So it's a pretty sturdy weapon. Unfortunately, it wasn't fit for, well, trench service, because it fired rounds from an en-bloc clip. And so that would be something that you put down here, and I have one of these. This is a loaded one, so I won't put it in, but you drop it inside. Every round has to be represented there. You can't have a partially loaded clip or else it won't feed. And after you finish firing, it drops out. It's sort of like an M1 Garand. And here I have an en-bloc clip from the First World War that I was lucky enough to be given from a Slovene friend of mine. It did see service because it's empty. So this would have been on the Isonzo front in the Socha Valley of Slovenia against the Italians. Yeah, this is really cool. And the one that I have now, it's about 20 years younger. And I don't know if you can see this, but it has a Nazi proof mark here. These weapons were replaced during the Anschluss, or when Austria was taken over by Germany, by the K98K, or the Karabiner 98. But these weapons still saw service. I mean, the Nazis still maintained them and put them in military police and domestic police usage. So they kept producing the ammunition, as in the new ammunition. This is a round that would have seen service, and this was also from Slovenia, in World War I. You can tell it has a rounded nose, and this is the 8x50mm rimmed cartridge. And this one in particular was made in 1916, so this is a year older than this rifle that I have in my hands. But this rifle was updated in 1931 to accept the M30 cartridge, which had a pointed bullet, or Spitzgeschoss. This bullet was 2mm wider. They have the same overall length. The neck of this casing is a little bit longer, that the pointed bullet would have a flatter trajectory because it wouldn't have as much drag as a blunt, round nose bullet. So here at the end of the barrel, we see a stacking rod, but no cleaning rod. I think the idea there would be to increase cohesion and reduce costs, which quite frankly is a good idea. All the Mausers I have that have cleaning rods will shoot out, but that's also a thing with age. Over here, we have a rigid sling loop. And this is specific to the Karabiner Stutzens. You can notice that it's mounted on the side. And over here, we have a swivel sling loop that's also side mounted. You don't have an under-mounted sling loop. And back here, this is interesting to myself. You have a repair mark for what may have been a bottom-mounted sling swivel. Could this have been part of the update in 1931 that the Austrian arsenal brought on? Perhaps. But if any of you all know, please let me know about this, because this is something that I find pretty interesting. And beyond that, this gun is all matching parts. I really like. It means that it wasn't necessarily taken apart and refurbished. This is, as far as I'm concerned, an original piece, and it just really pleases me. And this thing comes with a nice little thumb pad, which makes it a little bit better than a Mauser in my opinion, because Mausers you can't do that. So like a pistol, you can cock it and release it without worry of firing off the round inside. Also, if anyone knows anything about this, here under the sight we have a 7-8 burned into the wood. I don't know if that's a regimental marker or maybe an arsenal inspection number, but if you have an idea about that, please let me know. I'm just an amateur here, showing you my favorite things, guns and beer, so I don't know everything. This is just me doing what I like. So if you like this too, let others know what's going on. We're out here on the range with an M95 30, and it just opened up raining on us. There we go. Going hot. don't think I hit those either. But we'll just shoot them while they're down.
I am not wanted here.
Ah, yeah, that fucking hurts. En-bloc clip drops again, and we'll call it a day. So I decided to choose the Steyr M95 30 and the Stiegl Goldbräu to match it because I feel like both of them encapsulate the decadence at the end of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. They're both developed right around the same time, and they both really have something that's unique. The Stiegl with its really crisp, malty flavor, and it just hits you out of nowhere, like you know that you're tasting something that is over-flavored.
It is the taste of the master brewer that forms the taste of the beer.
But it's still damn good. And the Steyr, because it's got this nifty straight pull bolt. Really handy, though it's a little too decadent for the times. In the trenches, this en-bloc clip, you may have already seen it. It was very difficult to get in, and if there was mud or a lot of water down there, it would be a really hard time. Nonetheless, these are two of my favorite things from Austria, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe, and remember, never ever shoot beer. No, okay, well, I'm still working on this one. Enjoy beer and enjoy guns, but enjoy both responsibly. Enjoy. I like beer and I like guns, but I like to separate the two because safety comes first. This is River Fox from Bullets and Beer. Thank you very much for watching this. Please like and subscribe and share it to other people who love beer and love guns and enjoy them both responsibly. Man, I'm gonna go drink some beer.